Hi, welcome to the small shed. This week on the Cyclekart I want to start and have a look at the wheels. See you in a minute. Now in particular I want to have a look at the front wheels because that's the slightly easier of the pairs to sort out. The standard Cyclekart should be using a 17-inch wheel, ideally from something like a Honda Cub, Honda C90, Honda AN C125, one or two various Hondas and other machines use them. Rim width somewhere between 1.2 inches and 1.6 I think you can get, and that obviously will restrict your or reflect what your tyre choices are. Now these things are getting harder and harder to source. In the States there's a few of them around and people are finding them. I've seen a few on local Facebook marketplace and eBay. They tend to be a bit tatty, although you can get replacement rims, you can get replacement spokes, so you could build up a wheel yourself. And certainly there's a new sort of wave of Cyclekart building going on down in Australia. They are suffering with not being able to find them, even though they've probably got more down there than anybody else in the world, because they're the standard bike that was used by the post office for delivering mail. Problem with that is that they've become a thing that's being preserved, a bit like VWs or early Minis, things like that, and so therefore prices have shot up on anything that's going like that. Fortunately I've found, and we in the UK have access to wheels that are made in Thailand, which are in theory exact replicas of the Honda wheels. How they'll stand up I don't know, whether they're any good or not I don't know, but I wanted something that was nice and new and shiny. Now that's purely an aesthetic decision based on my desire to make a scale model of an Austin 7. The option is there to go and buy some tatty old ones off eBay and rebuild them with new rims, new spokes as necessary. The problem with that is it's probably not that cost effective. I've paid about £51 per wheel for the wheels on the Cyclekart, for brand new wheels. So as long as they hold up to the sort of use that they're going to get, and we'll find that out in time, I think it's probably a reasonable way of going about it. But others may be able to do it cheaper by just literally getting in some ratty old wheels, getting them shot blasted and powder coated, something like that. And again, it depends on the facilities you've got, and this is where there's always this conflict with budget between spending a lot of money or spending money on something new and or doing it yourself. In this instance it's something that is something I've got no facilities for. I can't shot blast, I can't powder coat, so therefore I'm going to end up throwing money at it one way or another anyway. So this is the way I've gone. Let's have a look at, as I say, the front wheels, which I'm starting with, and see what we've got and see how they work and or don't work in the Cyclekart sort of scenario. Another significant delivery just landed, I think. We can get into it. Apart from sorting out drive chain details, this is pretty much the last significant thing I needed. 4 rims. Should have 2 fronts and 2 backs. Good. Next thing to do is to change out the bearings in them for something suitable for a larger bearing that we need. Right, so this is the wheel as it comes, and I'm not sure, as I say, whether this one is an ANC 125 or a Honda Cub Honda 90s one. I'm not really sure of the two. I know the fronts are one and the backs are another, but that's the wheel as it is, made in Thailand. The ironic and stupid part about all this is that the guys in Australia are struggling to get hold of these or anything like this. These can be delivered in the UK for £50, which is $100 US. Sorry, $100 Australian, New Zealand, or probably 60, 70 US. I'm not sure what the exchange rate is on that. And yet they can't get them in Australia. Thailand is sort of there from Australia. The UK is up here somewhere. Quite how they can ship them from Thailand to the UK to me, and they can't get them in Australia, I don't know. But that's just one of the strangenesses that we get in the modern world. So that's the front wheel off the bike. It's got a couple of 4 holes in it for screwing a disc on for disc brakes. I don't need that. And it's got an outer hub part there which some people shave off. I'm not sure I need to. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing with regards to spinners. These things, the Austin 7 had knockoff hubcaps, so I might do something that's at least a representation thereof, but there is a bit of meat that I can take off there if I need to narrow it down a bit. But that's it, and you get your front spindle on the cart, and in theory all you do is just shove that through the axle and away you go, except that it isn't. That will not go through there. The first part will, but the rest of it won't. There are ball bearings in there either side and a crush tube in the middle, but the actual hole is 12mm. Simple enough, you might think. Why not just put a 12mm bolt on, or a 12mm stud onto your axle instead, and use that, which you could do. But I'm told by those who know and have done it for much longer than we have, or I have, that won't last very long because that will fracture. And what you have to bear in mind is that on a motorbike, that 12mm shaft is supported at both ends, and therefore any forces are exerted straight up through the forks. On the Cyclekart, they're going through effectively at right angles into that pin, and there is not really the strength in 12mm to be taking that sort of loading. For the fronts, it is relatively straightforward. There are 2 ball races in there, and as I say, a crush tube which will have to be replaced as well. I have somewhere a means to knock those out, which I can do with a punch. Push those out and then replace them with, if I can find it, bear with me a minute. Right, there we are, a set of new races. Don't cost a lot of money, They are available, readily available, and in this instance the inner diameter needs to be, for the Cyclekart spindles that I'm using, because we're metric, 17 millimeters, and the outer diameter of the race, which is where it sits in the wheel, is I think 32. Yeah, 32. That's a readily available race. Seal race is there. They will drop in, and that will give me a slightly larger hole and enable the wheel to slip on. That's it. Just need to get past that first bit, but that will sit on there, and away we go. So first step is to get the actual bull races out, the old ones. It doesn't really matter how you do it because they are pretty much expendable. These aren't something we're going to need again, and I should be able to knock the bottom one out without doing too much damage anywhere. I've got a punch and a hammer. There is, as I said, a crush tube in the middle. Just bring the camera in, you can probably see it better. So you've got the race there, there's a crush tube down the middle. What that does is stop the two inner race parts of the races getting squashed when you tighten the nut up on the outside, because that'll just distort the race, put wear on it, and probably make it collapse in the long term. So it needs a spacer effectively between. But if I just push that spacer slightly out the way and get into there with the punch, we can hopefully get this bottom one moved. Afraid of them. There we go. That's dropped out the race, the spacer bush, which is no good to me because it's too small a diameter, but I need that dimension between the faces, and the race, which hasn't suffered from its experiences but is of no use to me in this particular case. The other one at the other end can have the same treatment now, but again, shouldn't be a problem. Get it right into the corner. That's it, I think. That's gone. That's gone as well. So that's as easy as it is, really, to do that. Now the crush tube that goes through the middle of the front wheels is, I think, 45 millimeters long, so I've got to make those again, but larger. Yeah, 45 millimeters. I need to make those again in a tube which will be larger diameter so that it will fit over the stub axles. Or it will fit between the bearings and the stub axle will go through it. And therein lies the first problem I've found, the first issue. And that is that the hole on the ones I've got, this I think it's the ANC 125 hub, is tapered. That hole is tapered. And although there is enough room for the stub axle to go through, there isn't enough room between the bearings at the sharp end where it tapers for my, or the 17mm internal diameter pipe that I've got, to go all the way up to the bearing. It lands short, and I don't want to just end up sort of guessing what the length it needs to be and messing around with it. So either that has got to be machined slightly bigger, it's only about 1 millimeter in it, or I've got to see if I can find a 17mm internal diameter thin wall tube, or get the end of the tube turned down probably a millimetre. So there's a couple of options there that I need to explore before I can get too much further on with the front wheels. Further inspection of the rims on the front indicates that this is basically an alloy, and therefore I don't think I'm going to need to machine this bit out. It's only about 3 millimeters from the back to the front, and it's less than a millimeter depth, the little rim that's stopping the tube going through the middle of the axle to space the races. So I've just got a file on it. I'm just going to work my way around it until it's removed, but it really isn't difficult to do. It's not that it's critical for anything other than size. It doesn't matter if it's even slightly not concentric, because it's only just to guide that spacer tube through. That's it. After about 5 minutes work, we've got that done, so no machining needed. That now needs to be cleaned out, get all the swarf out, and it's ready to receive its bearings, and that will hopefully sort out the front wheels. Just cutting spacers for the front axle to go between the bearings, because the original ones are far smaller than the stub axles are from the Gemini carts axles, so I need a 3/4 inch internal diameter on these. So I've just cut that one, just tiffle it up a bit. Really it should be done in the lathe, but I think this will be plenty accurate enough. That now is the same as the original, but bigger diameter, same length. So we cut another one of those, and we can get and fit the bearings. I'll put them in the freezer, ready. So hopefully they should go in with a bit of heat on the wheel. Right, turn that over, pop the spacer in, and then go and get another one. Next one. Trapped the spacer. Just go and try it now on a spindle. That's it. Seems to be first one down. Let's hope it goes well. I'll pack the insides with grease. It's not really needed because the bearings are sealed, but it just gives a bit of extra lubrication in amongst all the moving bits. That's good. So that sorts the front wheels out. I hope that was of interest. Look forward to seeing you next time. We'll be doing something different on the Cyclekart, and I look forward to seeing you then. Bye.